Well, I can't believe how time flies. It was only yesterday we were talking about the last one, and time has come forward, and we now delve into spring, especially here in the ACT, in the nation's capital, where it's just a pleasure to be around this time of year. Floriades in the air and the smell of wattle. Dodging the magpies is a challenge, but that's life. And speaking of life, there is another one of those wonderful Capital Brewery My Vinyl Revolution record fairs taking place. I had an absolute ball at the last one, picked up some gems, and just like any record fair, some stuff you weren't expecting, least expected, and then boom, you just find this banger that you never thought existed, and that was probably the pick of the bunch. It's happening again Sunday, September 15, 11:30 till 4 at the Capital Brewery, 1 Dairy Road in Fishwick, which is a beautiful spot. I can't wait to be there come springtime, a couple of weeks into spring, and I'm joined on the line by the lady who co-runs it there with a wonderful partner. She's from My Revolution. Once again, hello to you, Erica. Here we go again.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, good. I can't wait to see Canberra in the spring. Woohoo!
It is beautiful, as you would know.
Yeah. And the event that we're doing is kind of like Floriade, isn't it, really, but for records.
Oh, it was great last time. I think I spent the whole duration of the 4 or 5 hours there. It's just a great vibe in the air, you know. You had the DJs doing the music, you had the smell of burgers and beer in the air. You know, it's kind of got like a bit of a Sunday session feel to it, and the crates that you guys had around and the different genres, and you also had a great little display of secondhand. Well, that was pretty much the dominant part, and everyone was just into those things. There was lines behind the crates.
That's right. We try and space them out so everybody can jump in and be comfortable while they're digging. So, and that's the beauty of having a record fair at a venue like Capital Brewing is it's not like the bigger ones. It's really boutique and it's accessible, and we really want to give you or offer you the impression of or the experience of a record fair vibe. So, you know, these things used to be around, and they're still around, but they're not as numerous as they used to be. And, you know, with the way the economy's been going and rentals and shops and all that sort of thing, there's just not as many stores around that sell records as well. There's some good ones. I'm not saying there aren't, but, you know, to be able to just go to your favourite pub or, you know, if you don't know Capital Brewing, you should pop in, have a brew, have a look around and just be really relaxed with records it's really unusual and it's fun.
Well, as you know, everyone, you know, a lot of the people's record collecting in this day and age is online, which is a great source to find some stuff. But, you know, and then obviously the stores, there's some great stores around Australia they have a nice second-hand vinyl section and outlet too. But there's nothing like going in there in person, Erica, is there, and putting your hands on the crates and skimming through with that anticipation, and you get some stuff that you liked, that you wanted to get, but then there's always those couple that were least expected. I remember when I went to the last one, I found a John Lennon Greatest Hits, and I was like, I am getting this, and that was like the pick of the bunch for me.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. Well, you know, also if you do go to record stores regularly and you've got your faves around Canberra, we're from the Illawarra, so we bring a different selection. You might find some of the same titles, but we focus on getting a wide range and a big range of secondhand so that people can jump in and have a good crate dig. So, you know, you might be looking for something, as you said, and end up finding completely different things.
Yeah.
On vinyl.
Absolutely. And I think last time we spoke, I probably quadrupled my collection now. And I've got one of those IKEA cubes, 4x4s.
Yeah, the Calyx.
I'm 2.5 full now.
Oh, really?
When we first chatted, I was probably half a cube, like half a square. Now I'm 2.5 squares.
So in the rest of the cubes, do you have like, I don't know, did you collect something before vinyl?
I've got some 7 inches in there. I've got a stack of my mum's old ones, including a really cool Beatles Greatest Hits, and also she's got an original pressing of Ripped 73.
Oh, Ripper. Is it
Ripper? Sorry, Ripper 73, yeah.
where the person's body has texture written on it.
Yes, she's got an original.
You should check out the cover of this Australian band called the Hard-Ons. They have. Yeah, you've seen that?
Yeah, it was clever.
Yeah, it's a pastiche of that cover. That's quite iconic, that compilation. And compilations are actually a great way to jump in and start collecting if you're not really sure where to start. So, there's a record label called Good Party Pack, and there are people that collect only compilations as well. So we know some people who only collect the concept records ones. And, it's so varied. You can be as specific or as broad as you want with vinyl.
Absolutely. And you speak about compilations. I really enjoy, I'm a really big fan of best ofs. And sometimes, we spoke about this off air earlier, sometimes you don't nail what you're looking for in the best ofs. But in my vinyl collecting journeys since last time we spoke, I found a wonderful pressing of the Legend Deluxe edition of Bob Marley, and both of the pressings are 2 Rastafarian coloured vinyls.
Oh, wow.
That's been getting an absolute spin recently, and it just sets the mood, and there's such an emotional response to vinyl. And I work in radio, so I hear music all the time, and sometimes, unfortunately, music can become wallpaper because you're just listening to it all day, and it's strategic. I've got 8 minutes to kill. Let's slide in November Rain, Guns N' Roses. That'll take us to the news, whereas vinyl is like the laid-back, stripped-back sound bath, and I get more of an emotional reaction. And there's songs, for example, I would say that example, I've got both Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 on vinyl, big fan of the Gunners boys. And obviously they have for that particular release, they actually redid the orchestral arrangement for that November Rain song, because Axl actually did that on keys back in 1991. So for this special edition, for the anniversary, they actually brought in an orchestral arrangement and they redid that. So listening back at that on vinyl, a song like November Rain gives it a whole new life. And I feel vinyl gives music a whole new life, and a life you can only get by doing that experience.
True. Back in the day, before we had the internet and before we had CDs even, like they've come and gone, but some say they're coming back again, and before cassettes, there was vinyl. Yeah. And I've got this wacky section of my record collection that isn't even music, but people would get information from vinyl, and they still do, and they do it in many, many different ways. But I've collected speeches on vinyl.
Wow.
There's I've got 3 records with yoga instructors doing yoga instructions on vinyl from the 60s and 70s.
Wow.
So I've got I know, it's just random stuff. Pete has a How to Give Up Smoking record on vinyl. That's how they used to do it.
You know what I've got a old guitar magazine which I picked up from an old guitar expo a few years ago, and it's got my favourite band on there. It's got Flea and John Frusciante from the Chili Peppers. And obviously in the guitar magazine, I pretty much, through the 90s when CD was well and truly underway, you had each magazine came with a CD, and that CD had like some backing tracks and some skills and some samples and some really great stuff. This particular guitar magazine was back from 1990, and in the middle it had a vinyl, but it was a vinyl that you could peel off, and it was like it was bendy, it was like a bendy vinyl, and that had all the information on there, that had all the musical stuff on there. It was a vinyl.
Yep, that's called a flexi, and there's people that flexies, and there's people who collect just those as well.
Wow. Well, that's
really
amazing.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Those sorts of collectible items, they're really interesting because sometimes you get, so for example, a record from New Order Factory Records release or something like that. You could get a magazine back in the day who was promoting 80s music, and they'd put a New Order track with other tracks from other record companies onto a flexi or a promotional 7, a 45, the small ones, and then release that. And It's the randomness or the specificity of what the information or the music is that's on the vinyl that makes it collectible. So, something like that, if you've got a 7-inch with 4 different bands on it, that becomes collectible to 4 different types of collectors. If they're, electronic music, dance music, indie or shoegaze or something like that. And it's amazing to see the variations of vinyl that you can get just from one track or one band.
Oh,
so interesting.
It's just amazing. And speaking about 7 inches, I just picked up, I've got given a wonderful 7-inch pressing of a band who is Melbourne-based, and they're old school rockers. I think they're in their 50s now. But they were born and raised in Canberra, and they call themselves Vorse. And they have like a couple of Canberra-based songs, which is really, really cool, repetitive loopy rock, which was outstanding. And in the kind of same volition of, say, Dinosaur Jr., and great stuff. And it's like I'm starting to really get a little feel for 7 inches now. So 7-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch, it's all there. I'm really excited about a John Frusciante repressing of his original solo album called Neanderlades, and usually just a T-shirt. And what comes with that is a 7-inch single as well, because he couldn't fit those 2 songs on the pressing, so they came on a 7-inch. So I just love those little inclusions,
cool. Oh, wow. Well, with your new records, so we import and stock new records as well, brand new releases, everything that you would see in any of the commercial stores. We've usually got it, and we'll have it at the Capital Brewing Company. Yeah, with the new releases, as well, I don't know if people do know about how Taylor Swift has re-recorded her own albums. Well, with each different re-recording or repressing of a record, you can do different things. You can put different tracks on it, or you can keep it faithful to the original and keep all the same old tracks on it. But, there are new records being pressed all the time. So, you've got your Fleetwood Macs. That I don't think that Rumours has ever been out of press.
Wow.
The same album. But now they've got, pumped up versions, remastered versions, things with extra tracks. And, it just depends on how deep you want to go down the rabbit hole of each band or whatever. And with each different pressing, if you are a collector of one particular band, like you are with the Chili's, then, you could make it a goal to collect every pressing of Californication, for example, from around the world.
Well, no pun intended, because that's the first track there. But speaking of Californication, I recently did a collaboration with a local crew down here, and it was with the 25th anniversary re-edition of Californication, of course with the blue sky and the orange pool, and that was the 2 vinyl colours. It was orange and blue, and gave that a spin, and really happy with that. Also, Jane's Addiction. Their second album too, with their Pearl pressing too, and that's just been redone. So I'm a big fan of the repressings, and I can't wait. And we spoke about this earlier too, the John Lennon Mind Games Meditation triple that's coming out in October. I can't wait to hear that. There's one song I've heard already, one mix I've heard already, and I just can't wait to get my head around that.
Oh wow, yeah. Well, and for Beatles collectors, that would be an essential buy as well.
I also picked up the Abbey Road.
Recently. That's a classic.
That's
good.
That's a bedtime story during the day, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, if you're into the Beatles, if you want to spend 5 hours or 5 days watching Get Back, the Get Back sessions that Peter Jackson produced, that's fascinating. That's got so many little Easter eggs and snippets and treasures for the Beatles fan to really get into.
Now, what are you currently spinning? Let me share before you go. And you mentioned some weird and wacky stuff, and I've started to open that door of weird and wackiness. I was fortunate enough to interview a pretty good Australian band that's been around for a long, long time, and the bass player mentioned that he's into progressive rock and showed me some stuff. And I went and found a bit of a guy who's now become my kraut rock dealer. And being a guitar player myself, I get into that kind of weird and wackiness, and I found... he advised to give this a try, and I bought this band called Mythos from Germany.
Oh, Mythos. Yeah.
Yes, I got the original. The
A
original.
70s band.
Yeah, from the 1970s, German krautrock with Mythos, and it's definitely from a whole other planet. But
Mythos is huge. Has it got like an insect on the front cover?
this particular one, let me just click on it now. It's just got, click on it, meaning I'm just on my phone as we do this interview, but it's kind of like a really cool graffiti insecty thing with one eye. Yeah, and it's like a double spread, the front and back, if you will.
How cool. A gatefold.
A gatefold on the outside.
Wow. So what's your interpretation of krautrock or prog rock?
The great thing about the I've kind of been raised, you mentioned the Chili Peppers, and the Chili Peppers, especially the guitar player John Frusciante, he was very much into like the Zeppelins and the Hendrixes of the world. And the beautiful thing is, whether you're playing music or listening to music and collecting music, you start to accumulate favourites. And then when you start to really get into your favourites and your favourite musicians and artists, you start to follow up on their inspirations, especially as a student of a guitar. When you take on a hero, you take on all their inspiration as well, and then you eventually go and rabbit hole them. And it's not long as a guitar player where you discover Jimi Hendrix and start to delve. Then you go to Zeppelin, and then you go to all this cool stuff. And the great thing about krautrock is it's kind of like where is Zeppelins of the world and Hendrix, where they would have, especially in their earlier releases, they would have some kind of kraut and some kind of psychedelic to their music, but then obviously have crafted songs with choruses and commercially driven stuff as well. But we are still talking 70s where it was still raw. I found krautrock is all those weird songs, those 12-minute Zeppelin songs, all those 12-minute Hendrix songs, all on that. That's all it is. It's just that weirdness that just kind of gets highlighted on one of the more commercial artists, if you will, whereas the krautrock is just pretty much half an hour, this whole rabbit hole of just psychedelic weird stuff, but it just makes sense for some reason.
Oh, it totally does. I mean, if you're into things with music with effects pedals and long jams and a bit of wah-wah fuzziness, then, you know, psych is really interesting. But psych can go from psych folk to ambient psych to full-on metal psych, you know, and
wow.
This is where the Germans, they were all over it back then, and they've been influential to every other genre of music, I think, from psych out. So love psych music, absolutely. You asked me what I was listening to. I'm listening to Simonde's 12-inch remix of Bra.
Wow.
Yeah, so Simonde, they were also and still are a band that played together since the 70s, and generally, I don't know, I haven't seen that many live acts that can hold it together for 50 years, but we went and saw them in March, I think, in Sydney, and they're a funk soul outfit from Britain. They were amazingly tight, and they were really together, and they had such personality on stage, but if you're into really nice, rhythmic funk, not Parliament style, more laid back than that, but really rhythmic groove, then Simonde are the band. They're absolutely amazing. They had 3 killer albums, and the one that you should look out for is called Dove. It's really nice. It's really nice music. And they actually headlined All Points East Festival in the UK.
That's amazing. So they're still doing some great stuff. Yeah, there's some great stuff funk out there. I mean, we all know War. I've come across some War stuff as well.
War's great.
There's some great stuff there. What triggers you? Are you just like the kind of the little girl where, okay, I want to listen to a bit of this, and you're kind of dictated what you're feeling inside, or do you go by your collection and just kind of go randomly? I might listen to this and just whack that on.
I've got a really open mind when it comes to music now, but I used to be 100% rock until I went overseas, lived in Britain, and started listening to reggae, dub, funk, soul, industrial, disco, every genre. And it was also for me I remember way back when listening to the soundtrack for Judgment Night that changed my mind about what music I thought I liked. And that was because I'm not really into heavy metal per se, but I like hard rock. And I picked up this record, and it was from the Judgment Night soundtrack. So kind of, okay movie, but they had collaborations between hip-hop artists and metal artists.
Wow.
And it was unbelievable. It blew my mind, and it's so loud and it's so good.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, you should look that one up because it is just it's still so influential, and the bands that were on it have influenced music like forever. So you've got like Helmet and the House of Pain with their track Just Another Victim. Living Colour and Run DMC, Me, Myself and My Microphone.
Wow.
Sonic Youth and Cypress Hill, I Love You, Mary Jane. My favourite one, Mudhoney and Sir Mix-a-Lot, Freak Mama. Awesome track. Wow. Yeah, they also have Therapy, Cypress Hill, Pearl Jam, Mudhoney, Sir it's so good.
That is amazing stuff. Yeah. Oh,
yes. So after I listened to that, I couldn't go back to just listening to one genre of music.
Yeah, it just opens up all these worlds, and I'm similar to yourself. I was kind of raised with hard rock and all the rock stuff, especially the 90s and the later 80s pioneers, and then you start exploring more, and obviously there's different genres all inside of us, and I've been listening to some old school, all original Snoop Dogg album. And, and I was like, wow, I want to get that on vinyl now. It's like, I love how I just kind of discover music, all the stuff I've had before, or music that, you're listening to that you've just known and that's been circling around in your subconscious, and you go, okay, I want to get that on vinyl.
Yes. And if it is on vinyl, then that's good. But, I mean, a lot of new pressings, well, not a lot, but a few of the new pressings that I've seen coming through this year are for records that were never pressed previously. And so if you missed out on it back in when you were listening to it, and now you're listening to it again, it's pretty likely you can get it on vinyl, pretty much.
Yeah.
So my tip for a band to check out is a Japanese band who are a psych folk right through to hard rock group. They're called Kikagaku Moyo. And they do some really, really teeth-grindingly hard music, but also really beautiful flute in there as well.
Wow.
So if you're into Deep Purple and you're like, where do I go with modern bands? Then have a look at them, or try Australia crowd favourite, try King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, because they also have that kind of range where they do everything from jazz to hard rock.
Yeah, wow.
So interesting. So we will have those titles at the Capital Brewing Co. Record Fair. And if you are not sure where you want to start, always ask. That's a good place to start too. To say, I like this band, what do you think? And it could be somebody that you know there, or it could be us. Just, have an open mind and enjoy.
That is what it's all about, keeping an open mind and enjoying and letting the beautiful music steer you accordingly. And you can do that on Sunday, September 15 at 11:30 till 4 at the Capital Brewing Co. over there at One Dairy Road, Fishwick. Capital Brewery.
Fantastic.
And My Vinyl Revolution Record Fair. I'll say that again. The Canberra Brewery My Vinyl Revolution Record Fair. That is the place to be, listeners. That is where it's going down. I can't wait to see you all there. And Erica, it's been a pleasure. Let's bring on September 15 at the Capital Brewery.
We'll see you there.